There were so many platformers in the early 2000s, each attempting to make their mark on the world by trying something new. This game brought a dark and edgy main character to the table, but not much else. Picture this, it's 2003. Everyone is still trying to make the next Mario 64, and then along comes Vexx. Released on the PS2, GameCube and Xbox in 2003, and developed by Acclaim Studios Austin, it received average reviews on Metacritic, 71 on GameCube, 70 on Xbox, and 63 on PS2. Positive reviews like the overall feel of the game, crafted by hardcore gamers, and if you muscled past the terrible camera, the conventions were nailed, even if it fell a little short. Negative reviews called the game unfinished and rushed, and how it was vexing, I see what you did there, to play a meticulously crafted and pretty 3D platformer when it's devoid of fun. The Astari have crafted a rift system that allows them to travel between worlds almost instantly. But the Shadow Wraiths hijacked these rifts and invaded the Astari homeworld. The leader of the Shadow Wraiths, Dark Yabu, enslaves a village, forcing them to collect Wraith Hearts to power the rifts. Vexx was one of the villagers, and during the chaos grabs some ancient magic gauntlets, which give him tremendous powers.
Themselves to him forever, and his fate to that of all Astari.
And seemingly launch him away from the village and its attackers. He ends up in the Hall of Heroes, discovered by an old man named Darby. They are the only survivors from the village attack, and Vexx is now the only one who can collect the Wraith Hearts to power up the rifts and prevent Yabu from connecting them to his homeworld. This game wasn't trying to be cute. It went for a darker look, a moody vibe, and trying to integrate more combat mechanics than your average mascot platformer. It was a super ambitious, if kinda janky gem that should be on any hardcore platform lover's list. We are pretty much dropped into the world and told to do our best. We still have the war talons, which give us the ability to power jump, climb, fight enemies, and blast energy. Everything centers around this rift station, where doors lead to different worlds. Our main goal is to collect Wraith Hearts and open all these doors. There are a certain number of hearts in each area, and there are a few ways to get them. We can collect these orbs, and when we hit 100, a Wraith Heart appears ready for us to collect. There are also some hearts just hanging out in places, and we have to explore and traverse the world in order to get to them. Once we have a heart, we go back to the rift to deposit them, and depending on how many we have, we can open a door to another world. It follows the Mario 64 kind of formula, and in turn also feels like Mario Odyssey. Each world feels open and explorable, but there's always more to see once you've collected enough hearts. They tried to add more combat and fighting mechanics into Vexx. It didn't feel like there was enough enemies to fight, like in a typical action platformer, but it felt more complex than Mario 64. The fighting moves were a nice attempt at encouraging combos, but most of the time it was just easier to spam the attack button than wrestle with the camera. We'll talk about the camera, don't you worry. The platforming itself was pretty standard, moving things to jump on, weighted seesaws, walls to climb and shimmy along, poles to hop on and off, and loads more. There's a platform where you can change the time of day while standing on it, but I never figured out what I could use it for, except to make visibility worse. This is definitely a game that rewards being nosy and exploring. You can find hidden areas or extra orbs to collect just by wandering around and ignoring the arrows that are scattered around the area. I found there's a lot of backtracking in some places, or going through an area in one way, then backwards just to mix things up. There's swimming too, so you can survive if you touch a pond, but keep an eye on your breath, because you will struggle with the awkward controls. Don't expect everything to make sense either. I wandered into this cave, which led to this area. Then I was suddenly underwater. I fought with the controls and the camera, got all the way to the top, to find nothing. Then drowned. But I still have no idea what that area was for or what I was supposed to find there. Oh, and when you lose a life, you also lose all your orbs and anything else you picked up. So it adds a certain amount of risk to every little adventure you go on. I also wandered into this minigame, where you have to step on more falling tiles than your shadow self opponents. It took me a try or two to understand and get it right, but again it was so random. I didn't have a chance to test this, but if you can collect Wraith Hearts just by finding 100 orbs, can you just do that over and over again until you get all the hearts in an area? Or do they limit you on how many hearts you can generate from orbs alone? Okay, I'm gonna take a deep breath and try and remain calm. The camera. Welcome to another episode of Philly Fights the Camera. For some reason, the game didn't want you to actually have control of the camera, even when you needed it. Okay, there were some places where it would flip to a side view for dynamic platforming angles or something. But other times, you'd want to see where you were jumping next, and the camera would refuse to show you. This would cause me to fall off things or get jump scared by enemies hiding behind a corner. They really wanted you to do some awesome fighting combos like air juggling, but most of the time I couldn't see the enemy I'd just thrown into the air because the camera was too focused on other things. I guess you could use all the flaws in this game to create your own difficulty level if you're bored with standard platformers. It might be an older game, but there is challenge and puzzle solving to be done, while exploring pretty vast levels and trying to collect every Wraith Heart you can find. Vexx is definitely a hidden gem. It's rough around the edges and very early 2000s feeling, but you could see what they were trying to do with the mechanics and the moodier theme. The good thing about playing games from over 20 years ago is that we can look at them in a vacuum, rather than comparing them to whatever else was released at the same time. It retains the charm of early 2000s platformers, but it tries different things in an attempt to stand out. It allows almost open world exploring, which was a novelty back then, and gives you a dozen different ways to run through a world. If you like collectathon games, exploring different worlds and solving a jumping puzzle or two, and you have a high tolerance for janky cameras, Vexx is definitely one to look at. Just don't let the camera vex you too much. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below.